On the Fan Show today, we have an exclusive interview for you. If you're part of the Pace Academy community or a Georgia Bulldog fan, you're definitely going to love this because we have Jamaree Salyer on the Fan Show today. Also joining the Fan Show is Sean McEvoy, a private quarterback trainer. We talked to him about spring practice, and then we end the show talking about Georgia's Pro Day and the economic impact that the Chick-fil-A Bowl has had on the city of Atlanta. We get to that and so much more. Welcome back to the Fan Show. It is Friday. It is Football Fridays here on the Fan Show, and the weekend is here. And if you're listening, and my friend, you have made it. If you're listening on Friday, you have made it, and the weekend is upon us. And this is a fun podcast that we're about to get into here on the Fan Show on Football Fridays. We have Jamaree Salyer on the program today, so we just want to welcome any Georgia Bulldog fans checking us out for the first time, or anyone from the Pace Academy community. I hope you feel very welcomed here on the Fan Show. We got a lot of great content for you today. So just to let you know about Jamaree Salyer, Jamaree Salyer is a very special young man. He's a great young man. I'm glad I got the opportunity to interview him. He is part of that number one signing class at the University of Georgia, signed this past year, and he committed back in December. But then after that, we're going to have Sean McEvoy, who, if you've listened to the Fan Show before, he is a friend of the show, and we're just going to talk to him about spring practice. There's a lot of things I learned today about spring practice, and we're going to explain why that is relevant, because we got a lot of spring practices going on. Georgia's in spring practice, Auburn's in spring practice, Georgia Tech's in spring practice, Alabama. The list goes on and on and on and on about spring practice. So we got a lot of stuff going on there, even though we're still in the midst of March Madness, and we are recording here in Midtown Atlanta. Atlanta had a very interesting night last night. I know it sucks if you're a Kentucky fan or a Nevada fan that you feel like you were just that close if you're a Nevada fan, and man, it just sucks this morning if you're a Kentucky fan. I feel for you a little bit, but I don't feel that all that way because you guys got Calipari as a head coach. But I'm just going to leave it at that. But if you're visiting the city of Atlanta and you're here for the tournament, we just want to welcome you on to the podcast. That we're a very friendly place here at the Fan Show. And like I said, we are a part of fansfavoritefan.com, so be sure to check out that website after you're done listening to the podcast. But if you have a device that can multitask, check out fansfavoritefan.com. Definitely going to enjoy that website, especially if you're a hardcore sports fans. We got a lot of articles talking about. We got an article talking about the Atlanta. You got an article talking about the Carolina Panthers. You also have one talking about the Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Tigers. So if you're a Memphis Tiger fan out there, you're definitely going to enjoy reading an article about your new head coach. So be sure to check out fansfavoritefan.com. I am Alex Berger, and we got a real fun show for you today. It is Football Fridays. It is always fun on the Fan Show when it is football. Like I said, we are recording in Midtown Atlanta, and there is no other place that I would rather be recording my podcast at than Spaces Midtown. If you don't know what Spaces is, they are a co-working place where you can get your work done if you're one of these people like me that works for a startup and you don't want to pay for expensive office space. Spaces Midtown is the place to get your work done and grow your business. They have offices, or they also, you can get in as a member, which gives you access to. It's not necessarily a lobby, but they have working areas that's kind of set up like a coffee shop. It's a cool place where you can just come to hang out, come to get work done. But be sure to check out Spaces Midtown. I'm going to put the link to their website at the bottom of my show description, so be sure to check them out. If you're interested, talk to Steve. Steve will definitely hook you up. Him and his staff have been nothing but gracious and friendly to the Fan Show, to Fans' Favorite Fan, and to me, so they have been nothing but accommodating, so be sure to check out Spaces Midtown. It is a block from the Fox Theater. It's just a block from the Fox Theater on Peachtree Street to give you kind of a area of location where they are located. But if you're listening, and we got a lot of listeners up in Alpharetta, they're also at the Avalon. They're at the Atlanta Battery. So if you're up in the Cumberland area, that's also a great location. So they're all around Metro Atlanta. So check out Spaces if you need to get work done and you need a solid place to get work done. Spaces. Now we're just going to jump right into Football Friday, and here's the interview that I had with Jamaree Salyer. Hope you enjoy. Well, we just want to welcome to the Fan Show today Jamaree Salyer, who is a student right now at Pace Academy. He is an offensive lineman who is committed to the University of Georgia. Jamaree, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. It's been a good day in the classroom. Actually, one of my days off from the weight room, so I'm actually feeling pretty good. Got me a good nap in. I'm feeling great.
That's great. That's great. I'm assuming with your stature, you usually don't have a lot of days off from the weight room.
Nope. Right now, Thursday is my only day where I don't have to go to the weight room. Right now, it's just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm in the weight room, and then Tuesday I'm doing O-line stuff. So Thursday is like my day I get to breathe. Gotcha. And what do you mean when you're doing O-line stuff? Just sharpening up technique. Working on my kick set, working on flexibility. Just perfecting my craft really.
Gotcha. I just wanted to know, what was it about Sam Pittman and Kirby Smart and the University of Georgia that you decided that you wanted to commit, and not only commit, but you committed back in December?
Well, I just felt pretty sure on my decision. Obviously there were some things that we had to really look into and figure out before I really wanted to, sign a letter of intent and choose Georgia. But, as far as Coach Pittman and Coach Smart, they're great guys. I can go in Pitt's office and laugh, and then 20 minutes later, we're sitting in front of a board and he's teaching me football. And I just felt comfortable in, that what I learned in high school could transfer to what we do at Georgia. So I just feel good about, Coach Pittman. And, obviously that was a big part of it because, I want to see Coach Pittman every day, not Coach Smart. But,
right.
As far as Coach Smart goes, obviously with him, what you see is what you're going to get. He doesn't joke around, but he cares about all of his players. You can just tell. Just being in that locker room, like all those guys want to play for him, all those guys want to play for Pitt, Chaney, all those guys. So, I just want to be in that atmosphere. I could see myself wanting to be that guy, be a Georgia Bulldog because I'm born and raised here. So it was a pretty clear-cut decision for me towards the end.
Now, I just want to ask you,
what was one of the things that was really attractive to you about the University of Georgia? Because I saw that Sam Pittman and Kirby Smart both visited you after the SEC championship. Was that a big deal to you, getting that visit right after they won the SEC championship?
I guess not necessarily. I was glad that they visited because, you know, it was just kind of like deja vu for me because, you know, I saw Andrew go through the same thing, and I remember when Coach Pittman and Coach Smart visited Andrew. So just the whole deja vu effect kind of came into play for me because it's like, wow, like I'm where he was a year ago. So I'm excited where I'm going to be a year from now. Going to be a year from now because we all obviously saw where he was a year ago and where he is now. So, I mean, it's just interesting to see how things are kind of falling into place. I'm just excited, really.
Well, great. Now, you said that you're right now just kind of full-time concentrating on going to the University of Georgia and trying to contribute. Now, a lot of guys, when they commit really early, obviously they take their winter semester and they're already enrolled in school. Why did you decide to finish out at Pace Academy?
I mean, I just felt like there was a lot of stuff my second semester, my senior year, that I didn't want to miss out on. You know, there's prom, there's baccalaureate, there's a lot of things like that you know, you just won't be able to get back if you know you're in Athens and graduation and stuff like that. So I mean, I just kind of wanted to be a true member of the class of 2018 and just try to you know have a chance to be a real second semester high school senior because I mean obviously that's like the best year, the best semester of high school is the second semester senior year. So I just wanted a chance to enjoy my senior year before I really had to put my head down and grind, and I think I kind of made the right decision. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame you for that. I know for me that the last semester of my senior year was pretty fun, and it just kind of was automatic. You really didn't have to do any hard work. So I don't blame you for choosing that. But I do want to ask you about, because I watched your film, and it seemed like your game film, and I don't know if it's the type of competition, because obviously with a lot of going up against a lot of private schools, you kind of have a mixed bag of athleticism. So watching your tape, you pretty much were always quick off the line, and even some of the plays I missed, like your block that you made. So what is it about your acceleration off the line, and how do you get off that fast?
I mean, it's just kind of something we practice every day. Coach Kevin is like, that's my O-line coach, Kevin Johnson. He just puts us through it every day in practice. So, I mean, it's coming off the ball, being aggressive, being physical, having an intent and purpose when you come off the line. It's just kind of things that he instilled in us at a young age. So, I mean, from freshman year at least, and I just kind of take that with me every Friday, and you know, I represent the name on the front of my jersey and the name on the back as well. So, you know, when I play ball, it's not just for me. I'm representing a lot more people when I step on the field. So, you know, it's just a mentality you take on the field that you got to dominate everybody in front of you. You got to be the quickest guy. You got to be the strongest guy. And that's just kind of what I play with, especially in it was known as my senior year, the last time I was going to get to the high school field. I just had to do what I felt like was satisfying to myself and do justice to my team and my coaches, because they put a lot into me, so I just try to give it back to them being a senior and all.
Mm-hmm. Now, I watched your tape of the when you were at the opening, and those are the type of defensive linemen obviously you're going to face in the SEC, and I saw that sometimes they got the best of you, but you won majority of those battles. And but the thing I noticed about you, even when you were down, you never gave up. You played to the whistle, and who would you credit that mentality with? And what's one of the things that helps you get that mental mentality of never quitting?
You know, I mean, just my dad, you know, he kind of brought me into football at a young age, and I was actually a baseball player at like a really young age, and he just wanted me to try football. And, you know, he kind of pushed me to my limit at a young age just because he knew the potential I could have. And, you know, I give him a lot of that credit. Also, I give it to, you know, Coach Johnson as well, just developing me at when I got older. You know, my mom, everybody around me. My whole team around me is just pushing me to be the best that I can be as a person, as a player, in the classroom, out of the classroom. So, you know, I know what the stakes are at the next level. I know what kind of guy I'm going to face. So, you know, that's why I'm ramping it up to the next level in the weight room, even in the classroom, just learning how to manage time. It's just, you know, it's something that's necessary and proper to transfer to the next level is to push yourself to be the best you can be. And even when you get down, I mean, because I'm not going to win every rep, especially not freshman year, not sophomore year, but junior year, I'm going to try to do the best I can to never lose a rep. So that's what you want to do, is just progress over time and just be the best that you can be and be satisfied with that, because you know you put in the work.
Right. Now, obviously, once you get into the mix at the University of Georgia, you're either going to be blocking for a pocket passer like in Jake Fromm or an athletic quarterback like in Justin Fields. I don't really want to ask you what your preference is or anything like that, but are you up to the challenge of blocking for those two different types of quarterbacks? Because obviously there's going to be things that are going to be put on your plate with one guy than the other.
Yeah, obviously, blocking for a guy that can run like Justin Fields is definitely going to be a different task from what I'm used to. He has a different type of athleticism from a quarterback standpoint, so it's going to be fun. I mean, anytime I can get on the field and block for them, because they're all obviously great football players, great athletes. So, you know, Jake and all they present a different type of challenge that's new to me, because I'm a freshman, but. I'm excited for the chance to even be on the field and just to be able to make a play that could possibly win the game. Just stuff like that. I just play it through my mind all the time, and it's just fun to think about. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, right now, just what's going on just in the culture of the University of Georgia, Jake Fromm putting out on Valentine's Day that the Dogs are going to try to get back to that national championship, and obviously, you're coming into a really interesting time where the expectations are that, and obviously watching the national championship, you're not going to out-scheme Alabama. You're not going to out-coach. You pretty much just have to beat them straight up. So I just want to know, are you looking forward to being part of those games? Because obviously, with your development, I can see you being one of those guys that could possibly have the opportunity to beat a team like Alabama just straight up.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, not too many people in the past, 7 or 8 years since they beat Alabama, period. So, yeah, I mean, you look at some of Alabama's, like, their juniors, like, guys going to draft, like, some of their records are, like, 40-something and 3 out of their 3 years in Alabama. So there's 3 teams that can say they beat Alabama out of that one class. But, yeah, it's just crazy to think about. But I'm really excited. But, you know, obviously got, like, LSU coming up next year. We play like Notre Dame, I think, my sophomore year. Like, this is a lot of fun games coming up, and I'm just excited because those are the games that you look back on and remember about your college career, not the smaller games. You can't take those for granted either, but the big games are like the ones that you really like juice yourself up for to play, and I'm really excited about those. I've been thinking about that a lot actually.
Now, I just want to ask you about Pace Academy. What's the biggest thing that you're gonna learn from there? Because obviously, it seems like you've made a huge impact just in that community in general. What's the one thing you're just going to take away from being at Pace Academy?
Just learning how to meet people. Pace is a place that kind of forces you to jump out of your shell and just meet new people, learn new things, and just use all your resources around you. Pace has equipped me with a lot of resources to take to college, and I'm just thankful for that. I met a lot of people. It's just a great time being there. And obviously academically is one of the best schools in Georgia. So I'm just grateful to have been at a place like Pace Academy because they'll make my college experience academically at least pretty easy compared to probably how it would have been if I went to another place.
Gotcha. Now, I just want to know, is the joke there that you guys go to Hogwarts every day? Because I've seen it from the road, and it kind of has that old castle-like look to it.
Yeah, I don't really know. I haven't really heard the Hogwarts joke too much. But it kind of does like a castle in the front at least. I guess that was the original architecture of the building, so I don't really know like why they kept it that way because they made a lot of changes to other spots in the school. So I'm kind of that'd be a question I guess I have to ask tomorrow because I don't really know why he just kept that building the same. I think he used to be the guy that built the schools. I think that used to be his house, and I guess they didn't want to change it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he built it like a castle, so I guess he.
Gotcha. Well, I was just driving by there one day, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, it looks like Hogwarts." So that's where I get that from. But yeah, I heard that obviously Pace Academy's in Buckhead, close to 75, and that I heard that you live in Stone Mountain. So obviously, when you get to Athens, that's going to be a little bit easier of a commute, and things are going to be closer. But what's been the one thing since obviously, like, it's a 2-hour drive. It's probably an hour going back when you get out of school. But what's something that you've really learned? Because obviously that's something that it's like I definitely admire and respect you willing to make that sacrifice.
I guess it's just been like it was difficult at first making that transition from like having a job like 5 minutes to get to school to having a job like an hour in the morning to get to school. It's just something that humbles you throughout the years and you kind of get used to it and become actually kind of know to it. So I mean getting up in the morning it's hard sometimes, but I mean it's worth it in the end. You kind of put the work in on the front end and it'll kind of pay off in the end, and it has. I mean. Because I have the ability to go play Division I football, and not a lot of guys can say that. So that sacrifice has kind of humbled me throughout the years, and I'm just thankful to have the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the education that you got there is definitely going to help you out in the long run academically when you get to the University of Georgia?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've talked to Andrew about it all the time, and he's like, Pace has made it like a lot easier for me here at Georgia. And obviously he's always telling me how thankful he is about it. So, I'm just kind of excited to see it for myself, like what it'll be like coming from Pace Academy to the University of Georgia. I know it's going to be probably a smoother transition for me compared to other places, but, like I said, I'm just thankful.
Right. Now, I usually ask this to guys, but when you get on campus, are you going to try to put yourself in a position where you can compete for a position right away?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Are you going to try to put yourself in a position where you compete for a position on the field right away?
I mean, whatever position the team needs me at. I mean, I'm not really like choosy on one position or another. I just kind of want to help the team out, and put myself in the best position to help the team. I mean, if me being on the field is what the team needs, then obviously everybody's gonna compete to get on the field. But I mean, if the coaches don't see that's what they need, and they say I need another year, blah blah, then hey, I mean, it is what it is. I just have to keep working. But I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna give up, even if I have to take a backseat to anybody. But obviously, I don't plan on that. I'm just trying to do what I need to do to help the team out. That's kind of my point of view on things.
All right. Well, are you planning on being at the spring game on April 21st?
Yeah, definitely. I also plan on going to a couple of spring practices, as many as I can at least, because they're during the week. But yeah, I'll definitely plan on going to the spring game.
All right. Well, cool. I hope you have fun with that. And obviously, I saw your Twitter account, and you don't need any followers from us. You got enough followers already. But thanks for being on the show today, Jamaree.
Oh, yeah, of course, anytime.
Now you can see why Jamaree Salyer is going to be an easy guy to root for at the University of Georgia. Look forward to seeing his career and how it's going to play out, and I'll definitely be rooting for Jamaree, and it's interesting about the offensive line. Unfortunately, it's one of those positions that you don't really see that much because they're not going to carry the ball, but you're going to hear about it if they get flagged for a false start or just a silly penalty in general. But I still look forward to seeing what Jamaree Salyer brings to the University of Georgia, and I can tell that he is locked in and committed to the G. Now we're going to talk about someone, I don't think he's necessarily committed to the G, but he brings a lot of great analytic angle about football and also about just quarterback training in general, and that is Sean McEvoy. So here is my interview with Sean McEvoy.
Well, we just want to welcome to the Fan Show, a friend of the Fan Show, and I remember ESPN back in 2011 did this thing called the Year of the Quarterback. Well, for this man that we're about to bring on the show right now, it is always the Year of the Quarterback for him. We have Sean McEvoy on the show, the quarterback whisperer. Sean, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, Alex, I'm doing great, dude. How about yourself?
I'm good. It's always the Year of the Quarterback for you, right?
It's exactly right, man. 365, dude.
Well, I just want to take the time to explain because I've kind of got some feedback on why do you call this guy the quarterback whisperer and everything like that. And I just want to say about Sean. Sean, even though he's a former football coach and he just trains quarterbacks full time, but my perspective of Sean when he was coaching, he doesn't seem like the Lou Holtz type of coach who would throw tantrums on the sidelines and get into guys' face mask and just be like, what the heck are you doing right now? But I feel like Sean's the opposite of that. He seems like he's more the Mark Richt type of coach, more reserved and just patient about the way he goes about his business. And so I know a lot of people call themselves the quarterback guru in this business, but I think Sean's the quarterback whisperer because he just reminds me of that Robin. He just reminds me of the guy from that movie, so that he just brings quarterbacks along slowly and is patient with them and just breaks them in over time. So do you feel like that's a fair assessment of yourself, Sean?
Yeah, that's fair, man. I think we all have our own styles that work for us, and I think you kind of hit mine on the head, man. It's all about the communication aspect and making sure, you know, we build that trust and mutual respect between the coach and the player. And, you know, and I feel like I'm getting a lot more value out of, you know, being on the same page and communicating with what we're trying to do rather than, you know, any type of screaming and yelling. But that's the difference between a quarterback and maybe a different position as well. So,
right.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll take any Robert Redford, comparison that I can get. So I'm good, man.
I was struggling with his name, but yeah, I was about to say if you can look like Robert Redford at that age when he did that movie, then I think you're doing all right.
How about it, man?
Well, yeah, let's just get right into it. And right now there is just a lot of there's spring practices going on. There's pro days. Georgia just finished up their pro day, and I kind of asked you about pro day last time, but I just want to know, like, what do you feel like are the benefits of spring practice? And for people that aren't really familiar with spring practice, why do these colleges have this spring practice? I mean, even they do it at the high school level, but the high school level, they usually do it in the month of May, not the month of April or March.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the time to just kick off, you know, really your off-season training and development. And you know, at college aspect, you know, you have your 15 or 20 guys that are graduating out or going to the NFL draft or whatever. So you end up every April with an entirely different team than you had last year. You know, so you're trying to find where the pieces fall into place. And, you know, with addition to the guys you've lost, you have a lot of your early enrollees that are in, or maybe kids that redshirted their freshman year and now are looking to contribute. So you're just trying to kind of slot guys into place, try to develop a depth chart, move guys around, maybe see if this right guard can also be our backup, right tackle. And yeah, it's different at every school, but it gives the coaches and the players, for that matter, their first opportunity to really showcase what they're able to do and maybe look forward to how these guys are going to contribute to the season when it starts in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like spring practice is necessary for every program?
Oh, I think without a doubt. You almost need to know what you have, right? So if you played maybe you played in a bowl game last year, and one of the big benefits of playing a bowl game is you get those additional practices at the end of the year, and that gives you an opportunity to start to look at some pieces and project how they may look, next year. But since then, all you've had is, off-season workouts and watching guys run around and be in the weight room, but that doesn't translate necessarily to what guys can do on the field. So until you can put the pads on and, have your first-team offense go against your first-team defense and really see who can tackle, right, and who can, actually make plays in open space. And, I think without that 15 practices to really see what you have, it's hard to even game plan, because that's the thing. Once spring practice ends and they'll have their spring game and everybody will be all excited, well, then you go and you take 3 months off again. And
right.
That's where the coaches are really working to do all their behind-the-scenes work on watching film and preparing the game plan and thinking about little, tweaks that they might want to put into their offensive and defensive play calls and things of that nature. But this is just the opportunity to really understand maybe how good or maybe not so good your team looks to be next year.
Okay, so pretty much since the season itself, speaking just college football and high school,
yeah,
it's 3 months out of the year, but you have these other 9 months that you have to figure out how to get ready for the season. So, but since you're not like game planning for anything or game planning for an opponent, are you more doing installing, or are you experimenting to see what works, what doesn't work, or is it just fundamentals the whole time?
Yeah, I think it's a combination, of all three. I think definitely with your, any of your younger players or certainly any of your newer players, your early enrollees that just came in, there is a lot of install, right? And there's probably 2 or 3, from an offensive standpoint, 2 or 3 new wrinkles that you're trying to put into the game plan, maybe some concepts that these coaches do the same thing as high school coaches at the college level. They go around, they talk to other people in the profession. Maybe they watch some video of other teams and pick up some things they like and think could be beneficial for them. So there's always a couple wrinkles you're putting in. So that's going to be a full install for the whole team on some of these new concepts. But you want to make sure that you're as good as you can be with your base offense, your base defense. Make sure everybody knows how to line up. It's a good time to play around with, okay, maybe let's look at a position switch for this player. He's doing some good things. He's maybe one of our 2-3-year starters at wide receiver. Let's get him some reps here in the slot, see if he can kind of give us some depth there in different positions. And, it's a time to kind of tinker and play around with your veteran guys, but certainly find out what works, what doesn't work within your game plan, get your new guys up to speed with where they need to be. Because, the fact of the matter is, once you kind of regroup and hit it back at it in the fall, you're on a short window. You got a few weeks, and then you're playing your first game. And the way these schedules have been lately, a lot of the top teams are playing really big, tough games, top 10, top 20 matchups in that first week of the season. There's no scrimmage, like there is in high school. You don't get to play a game that doesn't count. You have a few practices, you have some inter-squad stuff, and then you got to hit the ball rolling. So this is your time to really play around and be ready to go once you pick back up in late July.
Yeah. Outside of the players that just that are all about being in the weight room, all about hard work, outside of that, is it hard as a coach to get some of the other players that don't take it as seriously, or overall, do you feel like players take spring practice seriously since, like I said, you're not game planning for anyone? There's no games till like 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if at the college level, if you've done a good job recruiting, then you've got players that are self-motivated, right? That don't need the idea of having a game coming. Now, maybe one or two fell through the cracks and you didn't get a good look on them, but those are the guys that you end up never touching the field, right? And you see it every year. There's the 4 or 5 star, player at a high school who just never seems to find his way onto the field at the college level. And a lot of that goes to what you're saying, that maybe they just didn't have the work ethic necessary. But these guys are competing for playing time, man. It doesn't matter if you're a senior or a freshman. There's no other way to get on the field without working as hard as you can every single day and having that mindset, to show the coaches and show the other players on your team that you're kind of in it for the success of that team. So I don't think you can kind of, half-ass your way, for lack of a better term, into getting on the field if you're not committed to putting in all that time in the off season.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I just kind of was thinking that it's like there's probably some players who really aren't big fans of spring practice, but when it comes to like your multi-sport athletes, because a lot of players play baseball during the spring or run track or something like that.
Sure.
Just from a scheduling standpoint, can it get a little bit complicated?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think as coaches, in all the different sports, what we realize is the value in those athletes playing multiple sports. When I was coaching high school football, some of our best athletes were Division I lacrosse players, guys that went on to play at Johns Hopkins and Penn State, and, they were competing in lacrosse playoffs and sometimes would miss the first week of spring practice because of it. But you know what? Like, what they're gaining from a leadership and grittiness type mentality because they're competing late in the state lacrosse championships, they're going to gain so much more value out of that, maybe more than they would in the first week of spring practice for us, and so they're continue to stay in shape and they're getting coached up, although in a different sport, that mentality of what it takes to be successful translates across the board. So, we were always, you have to work and collaborate with the other coaches of different sports, but whether it be baseball or lacrosse or, anything that would track and field and, that type of thing that would be going on in the spring. But at the end of the day, you just, the success of your entire program and the success of all the sports within that school, the reality is you're going to share the best athletes. And I think that the teams and the coaches that learn how to work together is who gets the most out of those players.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this is always an interesting time of the year because it seems like there is a time to kind of just, I wouldn't say necessarily rally the troops, but if like you wanted to get in guest speakers or something where the team's going to be a little bit more focused and not have to worry about playing Alabama or Florida or it's Tennessee week, it seems like there's a little more leeway to get some motivational speaker or some people in your program that can help the development of your young men outside of the football field.
Yeah, like I said, when you're around great people, great leaders, guys who, have kind of walked that path before you and have found success, then any of the insight you can get from those guys is certainly valuable, right? And we talked last week about how, our quarterbacks on college spring break got to hang out with, Antonio Brown and watch a guy who's, even though he's undersized, worked his way and just made sure he put the time in to be successful. And when you're around guys that have kind of gotten to where you want to be, that's certainly valuable. And college programs certainly no different. If you can bring in a player who, so if you're at the University of Tennessee, if you can bring in a Peyton Manning, who's someone who went there, had success on the field, became a great person, great man, and then obviously make it to the NFL and had the career he did. He can share insight on maybe some struggles he had and how he overcame it. And I think that's important. Auburn has done a good job with bringing in guys like, Tim Cook, right? The CEO of Apple. So he just happens to be a grad of Auburn. And so now it's not just on the field value that you get, but here's a guy who's, went to Auburn, loves the school, passionate about the program, and obviously found great success, from a business standpoint. And what these coaches are doing a great job, more so now, I think, than ever, of making sure that every one of their players are developed on the field, obviously, but also set up for success, whether it be on or off the field going forward.
Gotcha. Yeah. When coaches talk about the process, I'm assuming that this is part of going through the process, that you're practicing, but there's no games, and the season is 7-8 months away.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. It goes back to your point. How are you going to motivate yourself? It's easy maybe when, you got 4 days of practice and then that week's your big game of the season. It's your rivalry game against, your top opponent. Then, of course, everybody's juiced up, everybody's fired up, But, this is a grind, man, and you have to have something that's important to you to keep you going through it. And, to that point, it's not that it's easy. I just think at this level, if you're playing big-time Division I football, you have that in you, right? It's hard to create out of nowhere in someone who doesn't already have it. But hopefully at this point, that's what's led to your success in high school. That's why you've now, have the platform that you have and have the ability to play at college level. And, I think coaches can try to do what they can to, give you some leadership talks and bring some guys in to motivate you. But at the end of the day, man, if you're looking for an outside influence, to get you motivated to show up for practice on a Wednesday in April, I'm not sure that's the guy I want to bet on being a big part of my success on the field.
Right. And I know you've been in a couple of these, but do you feel like the programs that have indoor practice facilities, especially this time, because right now here living in Georgia, I think on Sunday it was in the 70s, and on Wednesday the low was like 34, and today like the low is like 45. So just because, like, especially at this time of year, there's so much, the weather is so fickle and it's changing constantly every day. Do you feel like the programs that have indoor practice facilities definitely benefit from them, especially trying to put together spring practices and but because sometimes you just don't want to practice outdoors, and you don't want to put your team through some unnecessary just some unnecessary weather.
Yeah, I think there's definitely truth to that, especially now in spring practice. If you're in an install, situation, and you're just trying to make sure everybody's locked in and focused, the more variables you can take out of that equation, the better, right? So, like you said, it's a little bit of a grind. It's a little bit of we don't even play a game for 6 months. And so trying to get these 18 to 22-year-old guys focused in on learning the ins and outs of what they need to do on any given play, it's easier to do that if you're indoors and it's, 75 degrees and, it's able to stay locked in. You're not cold. It's not raining. You're not, now at the end of the day, you have to play in it, right? So there's obviously value as you go through the fall and that you've been outside in the rain and the cold. Because even if you play in the SEC, you still got to go up and, play Missouri,
right.
in November, right? So there's always going to be value in being used to being both indoor and outdoor. But certainly in the spring, the more you can just stay on schedule, not worry about a thunderstorm, having to cancel practice on a Tuesday, and now you got to try and go on Wednesday. The more you can stay on script and and take the weather out of it, I think is certainly a benefit.
Uh-huh. Let me ask you this, since you've been in a lot of coaching circles, do guys like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, just kind of fill in the blank of a guy like Bill Belichick, for example, do they love spring practice, even though they're not going to show it on their faces or they're not going to show the emotions? But do most coaches, like, when it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to be practicing in a week, or oh my gosh, we have practice today, like, is there just some sort of joy that they're never going to admit publicly?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and you're right. I mean, guys like Nick Saban maybe never show emotion, but I think a lot of guys, they're happy to tell you how fired up. Anytime they can be on the field with a football and their team is what they live for. It's why they do what they do, right? So it would be all the other things that maybe become, the tough part, right? Maybe all the recruiting, all the time away from their family, hours and hours and hours watching film, although coaches will tell you they live for that as well. But no, I think at the end of the day, outside of playing the game on Saturday, I don't think there's anything better than being at practice, whether it's in the spring, or whether it's, the Thursday before the big game of the season. As a coach, and I think it goes to all the levels, but obviously at the highest level, that just being out there with a football and seeing your team put some work in, I don't think there's anything better than that.
Let me ask you this, and I hear this expression a lot from a lot of different coaches, especially this time of year, because all the college spring breaks have just wrapped up, and you hear a lot of coaches saying that we need to run the spring break out of them, or we had to run the spring break out of them. What does that term exactly mean, just for an ordinary Joe that has no idea what the heck they're talking about?
Yeah, it's just, there's obviously that layoff, right? And it's always hard to, it's like anybody else, right? Like, you've been going to work for 6 months straight, and then you got that vacation. You took the week off, and you went down to Florida and destined and laid on the beach for a week, and then you come back, and that Monday at work is a rough one, right? It's like always hard to mentally get back into the routine. Like kids in high school, that first day back after Christmas break, right? It's just, and that's what they're talking about. Because anytime these guys are away from school, they're outside of the norm. Maybe they've been sleeping till 1 o'clock in the afternoon and hanging out with their friends at night. And so now you have to get back in. And a lot of times, and it's a bad excuse, and like I said, we talked about how important it is for these players to kind of being all in all the time, but sometimes that first practice back isn't quite up to the standard, that coaches are used to, and certainly not up to the standard that it was, maybe the week before they went to spring break. So it's just trying to get everybody back in the routine, and you'll hear coaches kind of echo that sentiment quite a bit of, it was a little sloppy, we weren't seeing the fire that we expect here. And so maybe you have to go a little harder, maybe the coaches have to yell a little bit more, or maybe there is a little bit more conditioning after practice or running around and making sure that the players understand that, hey, when we come back at it, 2 days from now, that we're back up to speed.
Gotcha. Well, is it, just from a coaching standpoint, when you have that kind of layover and you get back at it, I'm assuming, especially you've been a coach for a while, is it something that it's like, is going to happen, that you're not going to, like, obviously let that know to your team that, oh, well, I saw this coming type of thing, but obviously you want to get after them and have this high standard that they have to hold up to. But just behind the scenes, like, is it one of those things, well, that's what we expected for coming back after spring break? Because, like you said, like, those practices aren't really going to be that great of a practice.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's no reason it can't be a great practice, right?
Okay.
And I think the goal going in is that we're not going to miss a beat, and you try to communicate that. But then we live in the reality of, the age of the players that you're working with, and knowing the distractions that that they face and then coming back to practice is just, you know, and especially if you've been coaching for, you know, years and years, and you realize, listen, every year, no matter what we do, we seem to have a little bit of a sluggish return. So I think, I don't think you ever go in resigned to the fact that this practice isn't going to be up to standard for us. But certainly at the end of practice, you're not, you know, pulling your hair out like what happened to my team, because I think you do realize, you know, what it was. And then but you got, like I said, you don't have time to waste. You know, you're limited to these 15 practices only at the college level, and same thing in high school. You're limited to a certain amount of practices. So, you know, every one matters, and maybe you can get away with one sluggish one, but you can't get away with two of them in a row. But yeah, I think you're saying, okay, I understand, it happens, we'll get past it, and you don't try to make too big of a deal out of it.
Mm-hmm. I just have a question about these pro days. Is it one of these things that for current players on the team, do they enjoy going to these things, being a part of what's going on in their campus?
Yeah, I think some do. Like, you know, I know talking to like Malik at Auburn, you know, he's been there the last couple of years. I saw Justin Fields was out there at Georgia watching and taking it all in. You know, if you aspire to have your own pro day, you know, in a couple of years, then I think it's a neat thing just to see what it's like, right? You know, and see what the experience is, and maybe give yourself an idea of what to expect when maybe it's your turn in a few years. And then the other part of it is you just want to support your players. Right, they're your teammates, you know. They're your friends, they're the guys you've hung out with for the last couple of years and had every meal together. And so, yeah, I mean, they're going to chase their dream, and I think it's always nice to be there and support your players. Let them know you're behind them, you got their back, and you're out there, you know, cheering them on as they hopefully have a really good pro day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you, as a player, can you start making connections? Like, for example, Bill Belichick was at Georgia's pro day. Like, if you're someone like McBride, like, can you be like, hey, Bill, how you doing? I'm so-and-so type of thing. Like, do you have any interaction, or is it just one of those things that it's like current players just stay here, stay in this area, don't
I think that's a necessity kind of by rule, right? Okay. I'm sure there's some tampering issues, right? That I think a collegiate player, obviously, who, you know, isn't going pro and therefore is restricted with his amount of conversation, or similar like a high school athlete in the recruiting process, right? Like, there's times where you're allowed to talk with college coaches and other times where you're not. And my understanding, although I don't know this that well, but I would imagine that Bill Belichick's not allowed to talk to a sophomore in college. Gotcha. Right? He's got to wait until that guy declares for the draft, becomes, you know, eligible to be a professional, maybe has an agent or whatever, and then it becomes okay. I think you'd be worried about losing some, you know, NCAA eligibility if, you know, outside of you pass by and, you know, or maybe he's a speaking engagement and you meet casually, but anything more official than that, I think you'd want to steer away from. But the NFL, like a Bill Belichick, is certainly going to talk to, you know, the position coach, right? So, you know, Bill Belichick's going to talk to Kirby Smart, and, you know, who knows, somewhere in that conversation there might be man, you should see what this guy's been doing. You know, I know he's only a sophomore, but keep your eye on him in a couple of years. You know, I think that's a reality. And that's going to happen whether that player's there or not. Yeah, you know, like I said, it's obviously the opportunities at being at some of these bigger programs where, you know, not only are every NFL team going to be represented, but, you know, Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and, you know, whoever are going to actually be there. And you saw Georgia, they're running the drills, for crying out loud. They couldn't have been more hands-on. So it's certainly an aspect. And that's why, you know, Georgia is doing what they're doing in the recruiting, because if a high school player has an opportunity to go play and maybe he has his aspirations of playing at the next level in the NFL, then all you got to do is look at Georgia's pro day and their success in the draft every year and the potential to be in front of the right eyes. You know, I think goes a long way for those guys.
Right. Now you talked just briefly about just being hands-on.
Yeah.
I just want to know, because I saw that too at Georgia's Pro Day, that Bill Belichick was really hands-on with guys like Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy, and gotten conversations with guys like that, and Roquan Smith. So if you have a guy like Bill Belichick, because one of the SEC commentators was talking, and he was like, this is the most interaction I've ever seen Bill Belichick this spring have at a pro day. Like, is that a sign that the Patriots are considering on drafting someone, or is it kind of just like, we're just flirting with you right now, we don't necessarily want to date you?
I think you're just trying to gather information. I mean, like, let's not get carried away. Like, yeah, he was at Georgia, and that's a big deal if you're here and you're a Georgia fan. But you know, he was at South Carolina the day before. You know, he's I just saw he's somewhere, maybe Tennessee, like he's somewhere today. You know, so obviously as these schedules allow, he's, you know, and obviously no one is doing it probably better than the Patriots as far as drafting and what they do and making trades in the offseason, things of that nature. But they're just trying to gather information, and clearly Matt Patricia learned a lot from Bill Belichick, and he's got that same mindset of, you know, they think there's enough value there in the head coach with his own eyes seeing maybe the potential of these guys. And, yeah, you never know. Like, things like how coachable. And so we can watch Roquan Smith's film, and he's phenomenal, right? He's all over the field, big physical but fast linebacker. But how coachable is he in a drill, right? So maybe Bill wants to see that hands-on. If I tell him I need him to do this, how well does he react to that? Because maybe that tells me a lot about how he may be if he plays for our team. You know, so obviously, and then, you know, you have to be realistic about who you're really looking at, right? So Patriots obviously aren't the 31st pick in the first round. So some of those guys maybe should be long gone before they get a chance to get them. But who knows? Maybe they'll trade up if they really like a guy. And I think the more information you can get on any of these players, you know, the better suited you are when it comes time to draft.
Very interesting. I know you haven't really been in an NFL front office, but I'm assuming the rule of thumb is that you really don't want to fall in love with a player, that you want to try to make the best decision for your organization.
Yeah, you know, I guess it's different. I think it matters where you're drafting, right? Like if you're going to be 27 because you had a really great team and you know, we're a playoff team and yeah, there's no point in falling in love with, you know, the top quarterback in the draft who's going to go in the top 3 picks, right? But that being said, you know, I think you certainly have the needs for your team, you know, positional needs, and then you want to make sure that you have these maybe the top 2 guys at those positions that you know fit what you're looking for, and yeah, I think it's okay to, you know, how much do you want to give up to get that guy, right? So if you're at 15 and the guy that you fell in love with is still there at 10, but you don't think he's going to make, well, is that worth to trade away a pick later to get that guy that you love? Maybe it is. I mean, I think that's what you saw with Chicago last year and trading up just that one pick to get Trubisky, right? I think that was the guy they loved and they didn't want to take any chances. So I think that's a good thing. Otherwise, you know, you look and maybe there's 2 or 3 guys that you think are about the same, you know, no one really standing out over the other. You'd be happy with any of those 3. Then I think you can sit back and really evaluate when it gets time for you to make your pick, maybe who's the best available, that type of thing. But no, I think the nature is you're watching all this film and you're meeting these players and you're going to pro days and the combine. I think it's natural to fall. I think that's a good way to do it, right? I certainly wouldn't want to draft a guy that I was just kind of lukewarm on. Like, you know, he seems okay. You know, if you can, let's find those 8 guys that, you know, if I'm Bill Belichick, those are Patriot guys, right? They're the exact type of player and attitude and leadership that we want. That's what we've built this team on. And if I can get 5 of those 8 guys I fell in love with, then, you know, you got to be feeling pretty good about it.
Right. Well, thank you, Sean, for just explaining what spring practice is to ordinary Joes that have never played football but are interested in football, and really, really went in depth than I ever imagined, and I really now have a greater understanding about spring practice and what that means for a football team. So, as always, where's the best place that we can reach you on social media if we have any questions for you?
Yeah, like I always say, Twitter and Instagram. Obviously they have their own value there, but QB Coach McEvoy. But Twitter, definitely, man. You got a question for me, or want to know my input or insight or opinion on anything football related? Certainly, don't hesitate.
Right. Because Sean's in a pretty cool position. He knows a lot of high school football coaches, knows a lot of college coaches, and I always appreciate what he brings to the fan show. So thanks again for being on, Sean.
I'm just going to close out the
Absolutely,
show, and
Al.
I'm going to move
I'll talk to
these
you soon,
items
pal.
quickly because
All right,
we're
talk to you
already at an hour plus right now. But the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl actually put out a tweet and a post on social media that I thought was very interesting, and I'm a little surprised that Peach Bowl did this, but they talked about how much money the Peach Bowl made this past year, and all together, and this isn't just the funds from the game or what they made with ticket sales and concession sales. This is the entire economic impact, and for the Peach Bowl, it was $49 billion. And they've made over $1 billion since 1999. Wow, that is a lot of money, and you got to realize too that the city of Atlanta also hosted the national championship. So I'm assuming that's probably going to be in the 60 to 70 range of, or maybe more than that. Maybe I'm lowballing a little bit, but I'm just kind of guesstimating right now that since only the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which this past year had UCF and Auburn in it. I know Auburn fans stay locally here, so that hurt the hotel sales, but at the same time you had Georgia in the national championship. But I'm assuming the national championship, obviously because it's the national championship, is going to make more money. So yeah, $1 billion since 1999. That's pretty impressive. That one football game played only one time of year can have that big of an economic impact to the city of Atlanta. I'll tell you, folks, that's one of the reasons why the city of Atlanta stays in business, because they're great at hosting events like that. Also, I just wanted to mention, I know we talked about it with Sean a little bit, that you had Bill Belichick at Georgia's Pro Day, and I thought it was very interesting because the commentator for the SEC Network said that this is the most hands-on we've seen Bill at a lot of these pro days, because literally, he put together, sort of like a drill thing. I know this is, it makes sense, if you're seeing this, but I'm actually telling you this, and you have no picture in mind except for the picture I'm trying to paint right now. But he set up a drill that only linebackers do, and it's seeing how they get off blocks. And you have two guys with the plastic, I don't want to say bags, but plastic things that you have to try to get off of, and they're obviously going to go a certain direction. And as a linebacker, you want to go the opposite direction to get off that blocker, or try to go into that block and somehow bounce out of it, is what I get. And it was interesting. He had it all set up. He had guys who were the offensive linemen. Bill Belichick was the running back, and it was an interesting drill because he would just move to the left pretty gingerly. He wouldn't go at you full speed, but it's you wanted to see, where's Roquan Smith? How is he going to react? what side is he going to move to? And it made me wonder at first, but Sean, obviously, he gave me a little bit more clarity today that I was thinking that Roquan Smith was possibly going to get drafted by the Patriots, but right now, Roquan Smith is, according to the NFL Network, the places that Roquan Smith is going to get drafted to are most likely going to be the Raiders and the Washington Redskins. So it's looking like that Roquan's going to be with John Gruden, but who knows? Maybe the Pats trade up and they want to get a guy like Roquan Smith because he could probably be the difference maker in a couple of years of trying to beat a team like the Eagles or Atlanta again to get another ring and to get another plaque on Belichick's mantle. So So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. This is a fun time of year. There's a lot of speculation. There's pretty much no facts out there that are just tangible. So this is an interesting time of year, especially if you're an NFL guy or you're a college guy like myself, trying to figure out where these players are going to go and is that going to be right for the organization? Because if you're a Georgia fan, like you want to see a guy like Roquan Smith have a great NFL career, have a guy that can be around and be like, yeah, that's my like kind of like Thomas Davis type of guy like that you want to see Roquan being like. You don't want to see him going through the same kind of surgeries and injuries that Thomas Davis went through with the Carolina Panthers, but still, like, Thomas Davis is still playing and still making a huge impact in that Carolina Panther organization. So you definitely, I feel like from a college perspective, you're definitely rooting to see him do well, and especially if he gets drafted by the Patriots, just for an example, that you want to be like, yep, that's my guy in the Super Bowl. That's my guy, and that's probably why I'm rooting for the Patriots tonight, even though I don't really have any NFL rooting interests. You're always going to root for the team in the Super Bowl that has more of the guys you root for in college. That's at least my logic. That might not be your logic, but like I said too, you might be one of those guys who's a hardcore Georgia fan. And you're also a hardcore Falcons fan, or you're a hardcore Tech fan. You're a hardcore Seattle fan. Again, just want to thank Sean McEvoy for coming on the show today. Also, Jamaree Salyer, we're definitely going to be rooting for you here on the Fan Show, and you are awesome if you're listening to this part of the podcast. We definitely appreciate that, and we need your help. We need your help. I know you're probably like, how could I help? But we do need your help, and if you like what you heard, this is just so simple. It's just a click. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. We definitely would appreciate that. Also, too, another way to interact with the Fan Show is in the comment section. So if you want to talk about Football Fridays, you enjoyed Football Fridays, you enjoyed someone who's talking football in March, during the middle of March Madness, definitely put that comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your opinions. Let's just be adults about this, obviously, but still, we'd love to hear from you. That's what Fans' Favorite Fan is. We're serving these sports fans, and especially this podcast, we're serving the sports fan in the Metro Atlanta area. So we'd love to hear back from you, so be sure to leave a comment. Also, too, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am Alexander71004, so be sure to follow me on Twitter. Also, too, I've been promising for the longest time that if you send me a cool tweet, you know what, I will tweet you back, and definitely appreciate Georgia recruiting following me. I just found. Also, too, if you're my friend Kevin Galbraith, I appreciate you, Kevin, for checking out the Fan Show for the first time. Hopefully, you enjoyed that Jamaree Salyer interview, and for the people that are Georgia Bulldog fans and Pace Academy fans, definitely be checking out Jamaree Salyer. He's gonna make a lot of noise in Athens. I'm predicting that now, but I hope that you have an amazing weekend. I hope that I got you ready for the weekend in the right way. So, but have an awesome day. Fan Show 56 is out.